Cale was a woodcutter with calloused hands and a face that rarely smiled. His son Leo always followed silently behind, his small, thin shoulders trying to carry bundles of wood nearly as big as himself. Leo wanted nothing more than a pat on the head or a smile from his father, but all he ever received was silence. The silence was heaviest in their small cottage. One afternoon, Leo proudly showed his father a drawing of a bird he had made. He held it up, his eyes shining with hope. Cale glanced at it for only a moment before turning back to mending a tool, his own face etched with a silent, distant sorrow. One evening, Leo fell ill. His fever rose quickly, and he lay listless in his small bed. For the first time, the silence in the wooden cottage felt frightening. Cale sat beside his son, the usual hardness on his face replaced by a clear and profound worry. Cale rushed to Ilara, the oldest healer in the village. She looked at Leo, then shook her head sadly. "This is a strange sickness," she said, her voice gentle. "No ordinary medicine will cure him." Ilara looked out her window toward a tall mountain, its peak shrouded in mist. "There is only one hope," she whispered, "the spirit bloom, which grows only on the peak of whispering winds. But to pick it, one must pay a great price." That night, Cale packed a few simple things. Before leaving, he stood over Leo's bed. He leaned down, placed a kiss on his son's hot forehead, and a single, silent tear fell onto the blanket. The journey to the peak of whispering winds was a grueling test. Cale faced howling gales that seemed to claw at him, and slippery cliffs that threatened to send him plunging into the mist below. A fierce blizzard descended, blinding him with snow. His hands grew numb, and his body ached with cold. But the image of his frail son waiting for him gave him strength, turning him into a fire that could not be extinguished. Finally, Cale reached the summit. There, in the heart of the snow, a single flower glowed with a soft, ethereal light. As he approached, an ancient voice echoed not in his ears, but in his mind. "This flower is nourished by memory. For it to bloom fully, you must give it your most cherished one." Cale's most precious memory was of his late wife, her face bright with a smile as she held a newborn Leo in her arms. It was the one treasure that had warmed his lonely heart for all these years. "For my son," he whispered, his own heart breaking, "I accept." As the memory faded from his mind like smoke, the flower burst into a brilliant, warm light. Cale carefully plucked it, feeling its life spread through him. He could no longer picture his wife's face. Only a hollow ache remained where the memory used to be. Cale raced back to the village and brought the flower to Leo. As soon as a petal touched the boy's lips, the fever began to break. Leo slowly opened his eyes and saw his father, who was watching him with a gentleness he had never seen before. Leo made a full recovery. One day, he found an old, faded drawing of his mother tucked away in a chest. "Father," he asked, holding it up, "is this what Mother looked like?" Cale stared at the drawing, but his mind was a blank slate. Cale knelt and pulled Leo into a tight, desperate embrace. He could not explain his sacrifice, but Leo felt the unspoken love in his father's arms. The boy understood that his father's love wasn't in words, but in the silent things he did. They held each other and, for the first time, they cried together. Life changed for them. Cale was no longer silent. He talked to Leo, taught him to carve wood, and sometimes a small, fragile smile touched his lips. But Leo noticed moments when his father would stare into the distance, a deep, nameless sadness in his eyes. Determined to bring a full, happy smile back to his father's face, Leo remembered Ilara. Without telling his father, he made his way to her cottage. "Is there a way," Leo asked timidly, "to bring back my father's memory?" Ilara listened to his story, her eyes full of sympathy. "Once a memory is given to the spirit bloom, it cannot return as it was," she said softly. "But," she continued, her voice warm, "you can create a new memory, one even more precious, built from love and shared moments. That is a magic you can make yourself." She gave Leo a smooth, white pebble. Fill this stone with your love for him each day." Leo did as she said. Every day, he made a new memory with his father. They watched sunsets, Leo told his father stories he made up, and they worked side by side in the forest. Each night, Leo held the stone and whispered the happy moments of the day into it, like secrets. Months passed. The stone in Leo's hand began to emit a warm, gentle glow. The sadness in Kale's eyes faded, replaced by a deep and peaceful joy. He still couldn't remember his wife's face, but he felt her love through their son, a love that was alive and present. One night, Kale found Leo fast asleep, clutching the glowing stone. He gently picked it up. As he held it, he didn't see his wife's face. Instead, a flood of new memories washed over him. Leo's laughter, shared meals, the warmth of their hugs. He saw the love that had healed them both. Kale placed the stone back in Leo's hand and kissed his forehead, a peaceful, knowing smile on his face. The old flame had saved his son, but this new one was a fire they would tend together, moment by moment, forever.